Awesome. Thank you so much. So this is not only how to wow your reps, but how to create your action plan for the 2024 Legislative Summit. Um, so what we'll go ahead and cover in this webinar is how to schedule a meeting with your elected and how to prepare for it, establishing and refining a relationship with your electeds, what your legislative folder is, what one is, what to include and how to make it shine, and creating and owning your narrative, your agency narrative. And then towards the end, we'll have a question and answer period, as well as some information about ELAC and our next webinar. So let's jump right in. How to schedule a meeting with your elected. You're going to want to contact your elected's office 2 to 4 weeks in advance to arrange a meeting. It might feel impossible and it might feel a little bit early. If we can go to the next slide. Awesome. Thank you. So this might feel impossible. You might call a couple times and they might give you an answer of, well, we don't know their schedule. We don't know when they'll be in district. That's typical. But it is up to you to keep following up, and it is going to take a little bit of time, but with a little bit of planning and these tips here shared within the slideshow, you'll be able to schedule the meeting. And even if you don't get in a meeting with your elected, you'll get a meeting with someone on their staff. So you're going to want to contact the office 2 to 4 weeks in advance to arrange your meeting. You'll want to tell them who you are and what agency you're calling from, and why you want to meet with them. You want to make your request in writing after you call them and follow up with another call just to say, hey, I want to make sure that you got that request for a meeting. I want to make sure that we are on the same page, and this is our availability time. Let them know what agency you're calling from and that you're a constituent of the district. That's really important, especially if you're trying to meet with your congressman, your assemblyman, or your state senator. You really want to make sure that they understand that they are your representative and you're calling them not only from an agency within their district, but that you are yourself a constituent. Most electeds will want to schedule in-district meetings, especially during recess periods. Right now is a perfect time to start creating those meetings or setting up those meetings because they are in recess. Congress is in recess, Assembly and State Assembly and State Senate are in recess as well. So they're having a lot, not downtime because they're always working, right? But they have a lot of time within their district. So they're doing local agency visits and they're meeting with folks within their district that represent their constituents. So that's doing a lot of tours and meeting with folks such as community action agencies. You want to suggest specific times and dates for your meeting. Give yourself a 2-hour block of time. And we'll go into why that's important to do that. But make sure that you give them several dates. You don't want to box them into 1 day or 2 days. Give them 2 to 3 weeks. Give them 2 or 3 weeks out, and give them several days each week that you can meet with them, and block those 2-hour periods of time. So that way they know that you are available to meet with them and that it is really important for you to meet with them. Next slide, please. Sometimes you will be scheduled, even elected officials need staff support. We all know that as agencies that we need staff support from our executive director. Our executive directors need staff support. They need someone that follows up or takes these meetings because they're unable to. An elected official is the same way. They need someone on staff that understands the district. Each staff person for any kind of elected is assigned a block of work. So some folks will deal with government agencies, some folks will deal with local businesses, small businesses, some folks will deal with casework such as USCIS or helping folks talk to the post office. So guaranteed you will be assigned a staff member. So if you are assigned to meet with a staff member instead of your elected, please take the meeting, because what will happen is that the staffer will brief their boss about your meeting and will follow up with you and your agency and will be most likely your point of contact. When you get to meet with your staffer or your elected, please make sure to remember that you only have a small window of time during your meeting. This is why it's very important to stay on topic. So when you schedule these meetings, make sure that you're giving a title and a specific reason why you want to meet with your elected. And make sure that during that 2-hour block of time that you've made sure that you are being patient with not only yourself and your staff members, but with your legislators. So if they're in district during a recess period of time, more than likely they have scheduled back-to-back meetings to keep their day busy and full and to understand their district. So when it is time to go back and vote on legislation or write legislation, they have as much information that they can have to write that legislation or support legislation by their fellow legislators. Ask for support. Always ask for support. So, for example, one of the things that we have recently supported in our ELAC committee and through the CalCAPA network was ACA 1. So we can ask them for support. We can say, this is something that is really important to us at this time, and this is something that we want you to keep your eye out for. But don't push them for a final yes or no, because more than likely, this is the first or second time, unless they've written that legislation, this is the first or second time that they've heard about it. So you don't want to push them for an answer, because that yes or that maybe or that we'll see will turn into a definite no until they understand more information about what you're bringing them. And you are always encouraged to bring information about legislation that you're asking, but please remember that you need to give them time to do research, discuss with staff, and especially with their colleagues, so that they can either garner support or understand that piece of legislation more thoroughly. Create an opportunity for follow-up. Talk to staff about scheduling another meeting or a phone call. Invite them to your agency, invite them to take a tour. You can invite your elected, but remember that staff member is going to be your lifeline through that office until you're elected. And make sure that you leave material there for them to review. When I was working as a staffer, one of the things that I really loved was talking to folks and taking those meetings for my elected. But one of the things that was really hard was to be able to follow up with those folks, because my notes only took me so far. You're in a meeting for less than an hour, sometimes less than an hour. And you can only take so many notes without looking like you're not paying attention at all. So make sure that you leave them information about your elected, and make sure that you're leaving about your agency and about the legislation that you would like them to support, or maybe legislation that they voted on that you had questions about that could potentially affect your funding or your agency itself. Next slide, please. How to prepare for your meeting. I can't imagine, when I used to do a lot of lobbying and advocacy with electeds and go into meetings, there was usually 5 or 6 of us in the room. That was something that I wish someone would have advised me to not do. So make sure that when you prepare for this meeting, decide who will attend with you. Who are the voices within your agency that can speak to a lot of the services that you offer, or a lot of the opportunities that you offer your community. 2 to 3 people is more than enough to have in that meeting. And you want to make sure that you leave room for everybody to speak. And you want to make sure that everybody comes prepared. So has a little summary that they not only worked on to use talking points from, but to leave there as well. Plan who's going to begin your discussion. Electeds are just like you and I, but I still get nervous talking to elected officials. I really do. And so understanding that there has to be a plan of attack, right? For lack of a better word, you have to make sure that you know who's going to begin the discussion, keep the discussion going if there's a lull within the information that you're sharing or the questions that you're asking. And you want to make sure that there's someone strong to close out your discussion. So someone that is going to talk about your services, talk about your agency and your agency needs, and someone who will give an overarching view of what your agency does for the community and how important and impactful your agency is to your community and the services that you offer. Decide on one overarching ask. This is really important. It can be several small asks in one, but what you don't want to do is ask for multiple things and then them not be able to get to all of your asks or answer all your questions. So it can be an overarching ask to follow this to support legislation, such as ACA 1 or Proposition 1. And these are the reasons why we believe that your support is really important to us. So one overarching ask is more than enough, and it can be several small asks within that one large ask. So we ask you to support Proposition 1, and this is why it affects us. So we ask you to talk about it in meetings with the public. We ask you to ask your colleagues for support. We ask you to find similar legislation that will support Proposition 1 or ACA 1 or whatever legislation, whatever ask that you have. You want to follow it up so that it is a very strong ask and it looks like you've done your research. Because when you go in and this is how to wow your rep. You want your rep to know that you understand the district, the needs of their district and the constituents and the people that you serve, but also the people that they serve and the people that will be voting for them when it comes to election time, and looking at legislation or similar things like that, similar community needs. They're going to remember you if you have this big ask and you come in strong. Next slide, please. Preparing your agency kill file, AKA your legislative folder. Lawrence, if you can click on Look at it this way, we have a small clip. Oh, I can't hear it. I don't think we can hear words. Can you unmute yourself? You want your, so it doesn't have to be that scary for sure. It's not as scary as a clip from Scandal, but it is important to give your electeds as much information as possible. You want your electeds to know everything about your agency, and you should make sure that your agency shines. You want them to leave that meeting. Sorry about that. This presentation will come to you all after. So you'll be able to look at it. Can we try to play the clip again, Lawrence? You guys, sorry about that.
In undergrad, Georgetown Law.
Yes, I was there. I know.
Olivia Carolyn Pope. Princeton undergrad, Georgetown Law.
Yes, I was there. I know.
Only child. Mother Maya was in a plane crash dive and Olivia was 12. Father Eli curates antiquities at the Smithsonian. Has ever since graduating Princeton in '67.
Where are the family photos?
There are none. It's a very private family, by all accounts. Didn't hang with the Georgetown set.
Didn't have the dough. Her dad must have spent most of his income on boarding schools for his daughter because she has been to nothing but the best. St. Anne's, Cervelle Montreux, but she never lived in the family home again after her mother's death.
Never knew that about her.
We're thinking that's where she got the daddy issues.
Pope has a well-documented preference for powerful older men. In fact, after college, she had quite the reputation as a party girl, did time on the DC circuit, ambassadors, lobbyists, cabinet secretaries, a nice lineup of silver foxes.
She was working her way up the totem pole.
Enough!
Enough.
to play the ambitious slut card.
Good work.
Yeah.
Right, so it doesn't have to be as scary as that, right? It doesn't have to be that thorough and make somebody else look bad, but you want your elected to know everything about your agency history, who works there currently, the things that you have planned for the future, and what your vision is for your agency and the difference that it can make within your community. You want your agency to shine. You don't want your legislator leaving that meeting, thinking that they did not find anything else, that there are questions to keep asking about your agency. Don't be afraid to share how much you know about your community. You will become a resource for your elected and their staff. Make it personal, share data, give examples of success stories, include information about your board, your employees, your partners, and your service seekers. If you have a strategic plan, include some of the information regarding long and short-term goals. If possible, include any legislation that has helped your agency. So your vote on this legislation last year really helped our agency receive funding, or really helped our agency grow this particular service that we offer. This really helped our agency grow this branch of our services, or really helped us reach this goal that we had set 5 years ago. So we really appreciate that. Include information about your funding sources, state and federal. Because if you're meeting with your congressman, they want to know about CSBG. If you're meeting with your assembly member or your state senator, what is some social services money that you've received from my vote, aligning with Gavin Newsom or not aligning with Gavin Newsom? What is coming from the California State General Fund that goes to your agency? They really want to know. You want to be concise, thorough, transparent, and consistent. You want them to know that this is why you're here. You want your agency to shine. Again, I cannot state this enough. Next slide, please. Make it extremely personal. Who, why, and your what. Who does your agency serve? Who benefits from your services? Who are your community partners? Who are the service providers in your agency? And who is your agency to the community? So this could be, what is the demographic of the people that you serve? What are the ages? What part of the community? So in Merced County, it could be, for example, in Merced County, there are, I don't even remember, there are about 10 cities within the county of Merced, right? And my agency serves all 10 of these cities within this county, but we see more people coming in from Winton, Atwater, and Merced than we do in Los Baños, Dos Palos, and Hilmar. And these are the people that benefit from our services within these communities. And these are our community partners in Atwater. These are our community partners in Merced, and these are our community partners within Winton. And this is who we are to the community. So I know that CVOC, Central Valley Opportunity Center in Winton and Merced County, they do a turkey drive every single year, and they provide 2 to 3 meals, not only a meal for Thanksgiving, but they provide a meal for the whole week of Thanksgiving when kids are on break. And that's real. And they do a toy drive and a present drive at the same time. And this is what we do for our community. We not only provide a meal for this really important holiday, but we provide a meal for that whole week. And these are the agency partners that help us do that. Why is your agency important to helping end poverty? So in California, there have been several things that have come out lately. There was one article that came out this week that says that there are over 170,000 people who are houseless here in the state of California. And why is that important? What are you doing within your community to help end this cycle and lower that number of people within the state of California? Why do you have the services that you have? What is it about your county or your agency that has these services? I know in Long Beach, there's a service that helps young people who are in foster care. Not only reduce the being at-risk youth, but helps them work on art, Why is this really important to their agency, and why does Long Beach do this? This is why, and this is who we serve. Why is creating opportunities for self-sufficiency necessary? In our county, in our community, this is why. This is what we've been able to do. And this is the why of why we have created these services and these opportunities. Why are you meeting with your legislator, right? We want you to understand this. We want you to vote on this legislation, because this helps keep that program for, or that service for at-risk youth. That helps us make sure that next year we're able to fund these families for a whole week. What is your core message? What are the missions of your agency? What is the core message and mission of your agency? What is one major takeaway that you want your elected to know about your agency? What are your funding sources? Again, a lot of the services that you all provide cannot happen without partnerships, collaboration, and funding sources. So when it comes time to vote, you want your elected to understand that it is really important that your funding sources remain the same, at the same funding opportunities at 200%. CSBG right now is at 200%, and it's really important to keep that 200%, because without that, our funding sources or our resources for our community will be lowered, and we will not be able to make the impact that we're currently making. And we would love for an increase in that funding source. What legislation has helped your agency create opportunities and services? Make your legislative folder personal. Electeds already get a lot of information from other folks, but the information that you share should be as unique as your agency. One thing that I've heard since starting here at Cal Kappa is, if you've seen one community action agency, you've only seen one. Every community action agency is different, and you want to really make sure that your elected understands that, and that your agency is as unique as your community is. Next slide, please. And we are at 10:55, so we have a little bit of time, which is great. Create your amazing data narrative. So we've already talked about the services and who works there. But you want to create an amazing data narrative. So your data is your friend. Sharing data with your elected is really important. They like to see numbers broken down. They like to see where the funding is going and what you've been able to do within the last few years or the last year, especially if they support legislation that allows for your agency to be funded. So if they're voting yes on CSBG, they want to know that that yes vote really makes an impact. So useful data is percentage differences from several years. So for example, if you're in San Francisco and urban services has seen an increase in community needs. So last year you were at 15%, and this year you're at 18.2%. That's a big increase. And that funding is only going to stretch so far. So they want to see the percentage differences in needs of services or the impact that you have made. Has the number of individuals and families seeking services increased or decreased? Has the need for certain services increased while others have decreased? What does the hard data show in regard to your impact to the community? So because we started this diaper program here in Sonoma, we were able to give folks even further wraparound services for themselves and for their families and help them become more self-sufficient, because we saw the need for diapers here, right? And how is your funding broken down? So if you have 6 services, right? If you have if you have money from the IRS to help folks doing with taxes, if you have some transportation stuff, if you have LIHEAP or LIWOP, you really want to make sure that the percentage of the funding that you get is broken down as well. So 20% goes here, 15% goes here, and this is why. Next slide, please. I think we missed one. The how. So, oh, perfect. How has the funding your agency receives made a difference in your community? Elected officials love using examples of how funding in their district is used. Give them the opportunity to use your agency as a story when speaking in public. The elected that I used to work for would love getting narratives from us when we made these community visits, because when he was on the House floor, he would be able to use it and say, my CVOC within my district, within Merced County, is able to provide funding or able to provide a meal for the whole week through this funding. And it's really important. And this is why I support this legislation. This is why I wrote this legislation. This is why I've asked my colleagues to join me in supporting this legislation, because my district is much like their district, and these are the needs of our communities. So being able to use those stories is really important to them. How has the funding your agency received made a difference in your community? So are you able to do similar programs like CVOC in Winton? Are you not? Right? How has your agency increased the workforce? How many folks have received the on-the-job training because of weatherization or LIHEAP? And how has it been able to increase the workforce within your community? How has your agency increased opportunities for youth? What kind of services, such as Long Beach, do you also offer? I know that in some of the counties that we partner with, Friday Night Lights is really big, right? So that tobacco and alcohol use by teenagers is really a service that folks need within San Francisco and Fresno. So that is really important to talk about. How has LIHEAP helped keep families' lights on? How many families have you been able to service with that opportunity? How do your services and opportunities work? So how do people not only find out about the services that you offer, but how do you help them with those wraparound services? And what kind of wraparound services does someone receive when they have an intake meeting? And how does your referral process work? How do your collaborations increase your agency's visibility and impact within your community? So we have partnered with the following nonprofits, and this is how we've been able to increase our visibility and impact. Because we created a collaboration and partnership with this nonprofit here within the community, this is what we've been able to do. How will your agency increase its value currently and in the future? So we know that we're very valuable, and this is how we're increasing it right now. And this is how that will impact us within 5 years, 2 years, or 3 years. This is how we will increase our value and increase the need for this community action agency and the services that we offer the community. Next slide, please. Using your success stories, I cannot state this enough. Folks love to share data, hard data with their electeds. So you've already done that. You shared your data, you shared your opportunities that your agency offers. You shared of how all the hows of your funding and collaborative relationships. Now you should put faces on these hows, what's and whys. Make it even more personal. Using success stories not only warm the heart, but show why your agency is a needed resource in your community. So without your CEA, without urban services, this individual who came in with no education or came in with zero money or budgeting or ability to budget has been able to learn how to budget, has had a job opportunity because we offer on-the-job training through this weatherization program, through LIHEAP and LIHWAP. We are helping them end their cycle of poverty, taking away from that 170,000 number here in California. And we've been able to help them go to college or become self-sufficient without college. We've been able to help them end that cycle of poverty. Using these success stories will not only amplify your agency, but ensure your elected remembers the positive impact your agency has within your community. So it's really, again, it's really great to share the data and talk to them about the who's, whys, who, what, whys, and hows, but putting a face to all of that is really important, because data is nothing without these success stories, and your agency will be able to use it on legislative day in the future. Next slide, please. So all these slides have helped you come up with your action plan on how to wow your reps, setting up your meetings with your elected officials, creating your agency narrative, and crafting your legislative folder, not only to give them before Ledge Day, but having those legislative folders on Ledge Day. Together, these three things are guaranteed to wow your reps and ensure that you have an impact, not only at that meeting, but a lasting impact that will make sure that you are a resource for your electeds and make sure that you continue to be a resource for your community. Next slide, please. Reminding you all, you have 3 advantages to lean into. You have local insight. Your CSBG funding supports your community as well as the services and opportunities it needs. Again, your agency is unique. You know that there's a mom, that there are single parents who have a specific need for diapers, who have a specific need for LIWOP and LIHEAP, who have specific needs for programs that help with at-risk youth, that need that extra time or that extra help in school, right? So you have local insight. Use that to your advantage, because elected officials have really big districts and there are a lot of people wanting to meet with them, but you have local insight to your community needs and how you support your community. You most likely have a tripart board. Your board allows residents to make decisions affecting the community in which they live and work, and are able to participate actively in the development, planning, implementation, and evaluation of programs funded. Lean on your board. Make sure that maybe a board member is there with you so that they can talk about it from their point of view and why they have made the decisions and developed these specific programs and services that you all offer. And the third advantage that you have connections within the community. So maybe a community member, instead of 3 people from your agency, you bring a community member that has made a difference, that maybe was receiving your services and is now working for your agency. So not only is that a success story, but that's a great success story to use, because now they're able to share their stories with others and have become self-sufficient enough to join in these meetings with you. Use your connections. It's the who you know connection, right? We hear that all the time. It's not what you know, it's who you know. We'll make sure that you take advantage of that. Next slide, please. So question and answer period. We are at 11:05, so we have about 20 minutes left. So the floor is yours. If you want to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask, this is the time. Seeing that we have no questions, here are some things to remember. Our Education and Legislative Committee, ELAC, meets every first Tuesday of every single month. However, our next meeting is January 9th, 2024 at 9 a.m. We are discussing our policy priorities that we have crafted for the next year coming up. That will go out to all agencies, but ELAC will have a chance to offer their edits and their thoughts, and we will revamp them and send them out hopefully by January to our board, and then to the rest of our network at the end of January. To join ELAC, it's really easy. You just have to email us or email Sarah, and I will drop my email in the chat. Our CalCAPA legislative day is May 1st, 2024. We still don't know the start time. We're working on getting a representative to speak like last year. I heard that it was very impactful. So we're working on getting someone there who's equally as impactful and who understands community action, like Representative Fong did last year. But there is a CSD meeting April 30th, 2024. So the day before. So it is going to be a 2 to 3 day event, depending on how far away you are. So just prepare for that and start putting in your travel requests and your budgeting requests as soon as possible. We do have a form will be online within the next couple of weeks to submit your nominations for speakers for May 1st. So if you know an elected who knows community action and its history, or someone that supports it, please feel free to nominate them. And that nomination form will be live on our website, and we can also send you the link to our SurveyMonkey to do that as well. Our next webinar will be on January 10th, 2024 at 12:30 p.m. And we will be discussing Proposition 1. My hope is that we get the folks who wrote the Senate bill and the Assembly bill that became Proposition 1 together to discuss why these bills are really important to them. And thank you, Lawrence, for dropping it in the chat. So that is the link to sign up for the Legislative Roundtable that will go out as well after this meeting. So you'll get the slideshow. Please feel free to use it and abuse it to your liking. And if you have any other questions, please reach out. I'm available at any time. So please also share the link to our next webinar as well. We want as many folks there as possible to ask these electeds. And Proposition 1 will be on the presidential primary ballot March 5th. So it is really important to not only inform ourselves. And so Proposition 1 is mental health and housing services. So from my understanding, Gavin Newsom has created Proposition 1, has crafted Proposition 1 from a Senate and Assembly bill, and has molded it into Proposition 1, and that is going to affect social services funding here in California and mental health. So it is really important, especially if it's going to be on the ballot, that we inform ourselves as much as possible. After this webinar, we will not only send out the slideshow to you, but we will send a 5-question survey link for the session. Please be as honest as possible. This is the first webinar that I've hosted on my own. So any feedback, good, bad, or ugly, or positive, is really appreciated and needed so that I can continue to craft the way that I host these webinars and the content that we have for the remainder for the next year. And we are going to be having several webinars, at least one webinar a month, every month from now until to the foreseeable future. So please keep in mind and keep aware and keep those keep your eye out. We are at 11:11, so I'm going to let you all go a little bit early. Again, if anyone has any questions, comments, or needs clarification, I will hang out until 11:30. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I hope that this session was really useful for you.
Thank you, Katrina. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.